Okay, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Saturday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Parish Construction and Roofing. If you need an orthopedic, go to Brock. Remember, Brock, Rock, and Wine coming up Saturday, July 27th, 3 weeks from today. Looking forward to seeing all of you there. That's right. Yeah. 3 weeks from today. Yeah. 3 weeks from today. Yeah. Right. Yeah, 3 weeks from today. How about that? And of course, Parish Construction and Roofing, parishbuilt.com. If you have issues with your roof, we'd love to help you out, give you that free, no obligation roofing inspection. Parish Construction Roofing, parishbuilt.com. Okay, y'all. We'll say some good mornings here. As always, thanks for being there. Of course, Crystal Poche over at Restored Motions. She's the GOAT. You got pain. Book a session with Crystal. You'd be glad you did. All right. LSU lands a couple of more commits on Friday. Again, these were expected, but Brandon Brown, the big defensive tackle out of Texas, out of Florida, has flipped from Texas to LSU. He's a 4-star, 6'1", 290. Had offers from literally, every large program that you can imagine. Of course, Texas, Tennessee, LSU, Miami, A&M, Florida, Georgia, Florida State, USC, Ohio State, Oregon, like all of them had offers from everybody. Had committed to Texas back in December, committed to Bo Davis. And then, of course, Bo Davis gets the LSU job. So Bo Davis just continued recruiting him, just saying, hey, why don't you come check out LSU? And ultimately that relationship is what got him. So second defensive tackle commit in as many days, joining Zion Williams, who committed on the 4th of July. Now Brandon Brown on the 5th, one day later. And then Damian Shanklin also committed. That's a big get for Kevin Peoples. Of course, the defensive ends or edge coach for LSU. And Shanklin now becomes the highest ranked defensive prospect in the class. He's number 86 overall in the composite. 24/7 has him as the 48th best player in the entire country in any position. So really, 6'5", 235 edge out of Indiana. And you're losing Savion Jones and Braden Swinson and Paris Shand after this year. So you'll need to fortify that defensive end edge spot. And really, I look at Kevin Peoples, and he's probably one of the guys that might be we spend so much time, right, wrong, or indifferent, talking about bringing Bo Davis back and Corey Raymond and Blake Baker, and all those are enormous gets for Brian Kelly, adding those guys back to the coaching staff. We haven't spent as much time probably talking about Jake Olson and Kevin Peoples. And Peoples has been an assistant coach for 30 years. He's coached in Louisiana at Northwestern State and Tulane. And he spent 2 years at Missouri. He was there with Blake Baker for 2 years. And Blake Baker thought enough of him to bring him here. And also the 2 years that Kevin Peoples was at Missouri, each year he had a first-team All-SEC defensive end. He had Isaiah McGuire in 2022 and Darius Robinson this past year. So, he's got a good track record, not only in the SEC, but at that position. And Blake Baker thought enough of him to bring him. So there's a big, big win there for Kevin Peoples as well. So hat tip there. Okay, y'all. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Facebook, please go ahead and follow the profile. We appreciate you for being there. Share the post if you wouldn't mind doing that as well. We appreciate so much always all of you for being here and spending part of your morning with us. So I will say some good mornings here, and we'll get rolling. You know the drill. Anything about anything, fire away. Devin Kelly. I think that's 2 days in a row, Devin, or 2 out of 3 maybe. I don't know, man, but you're on it. Zach Prey, good morning. Chef 22504. Kirk Taylor, what up, man? Good morning. Suck it, nerds. Suck it, nerd. Joseph Baggert, good morning from NOLA. All right, man. Shout out 504. Kirk, when you get me in Lafayette, would like to come by? Yeah, dude, it would be great to see you, Kirk. I'll be there Wednesday. So Wednesday the 10th. So our affiliate there in Lafayette, at our folks at Delta Media, who are the Lafayette Lake Charles affiliate. They're celebrating the 1-year anniversary of their flipping to the ESPN format, and so the whole line will be doing shows there in Lafayette that day from Rue Jefferson. So their spot there, great place. I'll make sure. I think there's a graphic that they put out on social media, but let me make sure. Either way, I'll tell you the address is it's a 520 Rue Jefferson, 520 Rue Jefferson. So I'll be there for AFR in Lafayette on Wednesday. Let's see. Hey, Dad. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Brian Penn. Good morning, Matt, from Portland, Maine. All right, Brian, up in the great Northeast, man. Get you some lobster while you're up there. Some Maine lobster. Come on, Hugh. It's morning scone. We can't do that. Can't do that more. We can't do that. Jacoby Matthews ever commit? No, not that I saw. Let me see what's going on with Jacoby Matthews. That is interesting. I'm curious. Let's see. He entered the portal 3 months ago. Did he? Looks like there was some Oregon chatter. I don't know. I don't know. See if we can find out. That'd be interesting. Larry Garner, good morning. Caleb Fault, morning, Matt. Thoughts on Connor Binge, 5.73 ERA for Dallas Baptist in 33 innings, 2 years of eligibility left. Hopefully a nice bullpen piece. So that's not the player from Dallas Baptist I had heard. And no, let me just say that I haven't heard that name. So whenever I share info with all of you, it's generally, it's not plucked from the air, or I'm not just throwing something against the wall. It's, I'll tell you a name if I've heard a name, if I've heard buzz about a name. And so that's just, it's not to say they're not interested. I just haven't heard. It's not to say that I know everything, and I certainly don't know everything LSU is looking to do, but I try to keep my finger on the pulse pretty closely, and that's just one that I haven't heard yet. I think LSU is probably good on numbers on the pitching staff. Now, we'll have to wait and see what happens with the draft, but right now they probably feel pretty good. Excuse me. On numbers. Devin, what are some of the innovative ways other schools are engaging the average fan with NIL? So it's a good question, Devin. So there's a company. So I know that Auburn and Ole Miss have both done this, and both of them have been pretty exemplary at engaging average fan. And I hate to say average fan, but I think you know what I mean. I'm just talking about like the fan that's not the booster donating 6, 7, 8 figures, to athletics. There is a platform, and I think the company's based out of Indiana. Not that it matters, but I could find the name of it real quick. I should be able to find the name of it real quick. But sorry, I can't find it. Anyway, I can't find it. Anyway, so I'll focus. One of the things that they've done is that this platform is basically a third party that solicits small level recurring donations from from fan bases, and they basically, this third party essentially runs the whole campaign to seek out, engage, and get and solicit the recurring donations from fan bases, and that third party keeps a portion of the revenue generated. And so essentially the athletic department doesn't have to do anything. You just let them do it all, and they keep a piece of what they are able to raise. And that's how both Ole Miss and Auburn scaled dramatically, like in the thousands of those recurring donations. And I don't know, man. I probably had that conversation about 6 months ago. I know LSU is vetting it. I would assume they haven't moved forward with it, but I could see other ways. Other things that LSU has done is, like you've seen with Bayou Traditions, like they've done auctions and different things for experiences. Like there was a Tommy White maybe autograph jersey and an experience that they did at Bayou Traditions. I think honestly, Devin, one of the things that LSU, like not LSU, the collective has to do is just make more people aware of what Bayou Traditions is. I mean, I remember Cliff the other day just asked on here and was like, I'd give $25 a month. Where do I do that? And the fact that people don't know that tells you that there's a marketing problem. Because, I mean, if you just go to BayouTraditions.com, there's a link right there on the page on how you can give and donate and be a recurring donor, right? But they just haven't. I think they've had to work so hard to establish their base, engaging the high level donors, that engaging the fan base beyond has been sort of secondary, just out of. Because the priority was, hey, we got to go engage our high-level donors to get this thing rolling. So hopefully they're coming along, man. Abner, good morning. Hopefully Cade Phillips surprises with an LSU commitment. Connor Smart watching from Sandusky, Ohio at Cedar Point. Constant commitment post definitely made the lines easier yesterday. Trent Delahousse, morning, Scone. Looks like our 2025 defensive line class is shaping up nicely. Would you think DB now should be the number one focus for 2025? DB, I would say receiver as well is going to be big, because keep in mind, you're probably losing after this year Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton, CJ Daniels, Xavion Thomas. We'll see if there's other transfers that exit. So really, you're 2025 at receiver would be looking pretty thin. So you kind of have to stockpile there as well, just because you've seen so many of those receivers leave. Brad David, good morning. Hey, Christian. Morning, Sconers. Looking forward to Corey getting DJ Pickett and Jabari Antoine locked in, putting positive vibes in the universe. That would be awesome. So DJ Pickett is the number one cornerback in the country. He's set to announce on July 17th. That'll be while we're at Media Days, the Wednesday, not this coming Wednesday, but the next. And there's a strong feeling that Jabari Antoine, as best I can tell, and y'all know, like, I'm not the recruiting guy. I'm not the guy that's breaking recruiting news. I don't talk to recruits or their coaches or their I don't know. But just from all the people that cover it, and best I can tell, there's a strong feeling that Jabari Antoine ends up back in the LSU class, which would be great. I know there was a few national media people who put in crystal balls for DJ Pickett to Oregon this week, but boy, I know On3 has DJ Pickett on their recruiting prediction machine. On3 has LSU at 27.9% chance of landing Pickett, in Miami next at 14.3, then Georgia, then Oregon. So, I mean, 6'4", 179. He's out of Florida. He's the number one cornerback in the country. And this would be a great get for Corey Raymond if he's able to get it. So we'll see how that goes. Blake Murnane, good morning. Has Jacoby Matthews? Someone else asked that just a bit ago, oddly. Not that I've seen. No, not that I've seen anyway. Craig Duga, morning, my dude. Jason Horn, any new kicks? No, and I do have a birthday coming up Monday, so I'll be 42 on Monday, and I have a feeling someone might give me a pair of shoes. Probably, I don't know who. Maybe Erica. My God, I don't know. I think about Ruckus too. See what else they've got that's new. Bradley and Graffia, morning, Matt. I'm so glad to have Bo Davis and Corey Raymond back. There's no doubt these two know how to recruit. That is a fact. And the benefit of those two, certainly outside of of recruiting and their great recruiting prowess is the fact that they're both great technical coaches at their position as well, which LSU was clearly lacking. And I don't mean that as a knock, but it's just sort of what happened, right? I mean, you had Jimmy Lindsey as your defensive line coach, and he's very well respected. And Jimmy Lindsey, had his medical episode, and you had to move John Jancic to coach defensive tackles, which he had never done before. And that's why, ultimately they had to bring Pete Jenkins in, and Coach Pete was awesome to do it, and come in and try to get him to be marginally better day by day. But Bo Davis is just undeniably a better technical coach at that position. And then look, Robert Steeples, I mean, his first Power 5 assistant job was at LSU as the cornerbacks coach. I mean, that's tough, man. And I think he was probably just a little he was just over his skis. So, Brian Kelly has to wear that, man. He made a mistake initially in not retaining Corey and bringing in Robert Steeples. So, but took a couple of years and think you fixed it, All right. Smash that like button if you would there on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Matt Boyles, good morning. Hey, Lewis, good morning. Celebrating my wife Vicky's birthday. Will Hernandez play first or third for the Tigers? All right, well, first of all, happy birthday, Vicky. I'm sure 27 is tough to see on the calendar, but happy 27th to Vicky. And Will Hernandez play first or third. So you're talking about Luis Hernandez, who is the Indiana State transfer. That's a first base DH. Hernandez played a little catcher in his career, but I'm told that would just be like an emergency type thing. So I think you've got Luis Hernandez, Eddie Yaman from Dayton, and Dalton Beck from Incarnate Word, first base DH. Those three guys. Yaman could play third. He could. I'm telling you, he's 6'5" now. He's not going to catch, but I think he could play some third. I don't know if that's going to happen. But I think those three guys are all in the mix for that first base DH slot. Brian Turner, the return of elite LSU defense is imminent. LSU will have the best D-line and O-lines in the NCAA in the coming years. Shout out to Bo Davis. I mean, a big part of it, Brian, obviously, is you got to get the talent in, and Bo Davis is starting on that path, which is great. And shout out to Kevin Peoples as well, man. Kevin Peoples, of course, is the edge coach, and you go get Jesse Harold out of Florida. You get Damian Shanklin out of Indiana. A couple of the top edge prospects in the country. Yes, I think both those guys deserve a huge hat tip. Fearless Leader 7, good morning from Yokohama. All right, good morning. Lance Richard, morning. Hard to believe you've been on in Lafayette for a year already. I know, man. Lafayette, and shout out Lafayette and Lake Charles. We did that that sort of flirtation several times over the years, and it just never really worked out to get me on. And then shout out to my friend Johnette, who worked with us at Guarantee, went to Indianapolis, then to Maryland, and was hired as the GM at Delta Media there in Lafayette. And one of the first thing she did is very forward thinking. She flipped the sports talker to an ESPN affiliate. Obviously on the 103.7 Lafayette and 104.1 Lake Charles simulcast. And put the lineup in place where they put me on in the afternoon. And they made some other changes as well. RP3, D'Lo, and Mesh. I'd say broke up that show. They essentially gave D'Lo with Dawson Iserlo his own slot, and then RP3 and James Mesh are doing their show together. She's got Jordy Holtberg on and Kevin Foote. So they got a great lineup there, man, and they're local all day. So they've done an awesome, awesome job there with that station. I'm very happy to be part of that lineup. Phil Smith, morning. Any update on Greg Brooks? Phil, I asked, around several weeks back when people were kind of inquiring, and I think I think I'll leave whatever updates the family wants to give to the family. But what I did say and was willing to say then is, look, Greg Brooks still has a long road of recovery ahead of him. So please keep lifting that family and him up in your prayers and your thoughts, because he's got a long road of recovery ahead of him. But in the past, I don't know, maybe that was 4-6 weeks ago that someone had asked, Um, but I'm not going to say any more than that. Joseph Fallsgraf, good morning from Panama City. All right, Joseph, enjoy the beach. Bubba Smith, John Duce, morning, Matt. I hope you and family enjoyed the 4th. We did, John. Thanks. Same to you and yours, man. Charles, I watch you every day. This is the first time live. All right, Charles, thanks for being there, man. Yeah, so usually, especially during the school year, right, when I'm bringing Drew to school every day, we're on from 7:30 to 8 Central Time. I mean, we're live at 7:30 and I'm done at 8, like hard stop because I got to get Drew up and get him to school. During the summer, it's a little different because he's not going to school. So yeah, our days and our schedules vary a smidge, but and then weekends, it's kind of whenever I wake up, get my coffee, get going, and feel like firing this thing up that we do. But glad to have you here, Charles. Ryan, been a rough couple days on the recruiting trail for Texas. I love it. Yeah, man. And you're fighting them in recruiting battles now. Merrick, when is the MLB draft? So it's next Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's the first time actually they might have, it's just the first year they made it a 3-day event. But it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it's while we'll be at SEC Media Days. So, but round 1 is Sunday. Rounds 2 through 10 will be Monday, and then the remainder of the draft will be Tuesday. It sort of coincides with the All-Star game. While we'll be incidentally in Arlington, or we'll be in Dallas, but the All-Star game's in Arlington. All right, let's see. Dawson, Matt, good day with things, right? Yeah, man, great day. Beautiful day. Brad, why was Saban's $1.2 million contract at LSU so controversial? That sounds so small. Well, Brad, because 25 years ago, nobody was giving out $1 million contracts. And I remember hearing about the negotiations where, Joe Dean, who's the AD at LSU, and Jimmy Sexton, of course, who was Nick Saban's agent. Joe Dean and Jimmy Sexton had a relationship, obviously from Joe Dean's days at Converse. And they were going through the negotiations, and $1 million for a football coach at the time was really big. And Sexton wanted 1.2, and the way it was told to me, it was that Joe Dean and Mark Emmert were discussing it, and Dean was like, "Oh, we can get him for $1 million," and Mark Emmert was like, "Don't mess around, just pay the 1.2." And so they paid him 1.2, and like that was a gigantic number at the time for a coach who had had one 9-win season at Michigan State, but LSU had missed on all their targets, and they were going to start moving on to coordinators. What a dramatically different world, 25 years ago. But that's why, man, nobody was paying $1 million coaches 25 years ago. Charles Odom, how are all these dollars flowing without contracts for the athletes? Are contracts illegal? What do you mean, dollars without contracts? Because NIL monies do have contracts associated. They're just not public record. So, for example, if the collective does an NIL deal with a student athlete, there has to be a deliverable associated. They can't just give them money. So the deliverable, for example, could be appearances. It could be appearances at like booster events. It could be autograph signings. It could be social media posts. It could be appearing in advertisements for the collective for Bayou Tradition. There's a lot of different things that the deliverables could be. But those contracts aren't public. So unless if someone discloses them, then we don't know, what the terms of those deals are. That's why you have a lot of reporting that's sort of off the record and under the table. But there are contracts. Now the interesting thing, the very interesting thing, Charles, for example, is what happens if a contract is broken. So, for example, let's say a collective, because this happens, the collective signs. I mean, I'll tell you, like one that I know was Lance Hurd. The collective signed Lance Hurd out of high school, right, with an NIL deal, and the way it was paid out was I can't remember if it was monthly or quarterly. Forgive me on that note, but it wasn't like the whole lump sum up front. It was paid out, I think, maybe monthly or quarterly. I think maybe it was quarterly. And his deliverable was going to be either photo shoot or appearance or something like that in January, but he had already entered the portal after the season and had left, so he never executed the deliverable. So the question becomes, all right, could LSU go after him? And I guess legally, yes, but do you really want to be the school the athletic department, the collective, that's suing your athletes for breach of contract. Like, how does that look in recruiting, right? So it's complex in that term, right? And by the way, I don't know if, and that was at that time when Hurd had entered the portal. I do not know subsequently if he executed deliverable, what happened to tie up that end of the contract. That's just something that at the time I had asked that question of a lot of people, like, what happens with the remainder of the NIL contract? Oddly, um, you know, uh, there's like a weird clause in some Texas A&M contracts whereby they would like maintain NIL rights for even when players leave, and so that they would still be paying them. So, like, for example, and I didn't ask him this, but like Jordan Gilbert, who came from A&M, like technically, according to the A&M contract, like A&M would still be paying Jordan Gilbert the remainder of whatever they owed him based on the way their contracts are structured. Again, I'm just using that as a hypothetical. Based on what I've heard about how those deals are structured. So it's just interesting. So, I mean, yes, there are the long way of saying to Charles's question, yes, there are contracts. We're just not privy because they're not public. Wendell Norman, good morning. Rocky, what's up? Let's hope Braswell returns, or see what happens in the draft and the rest of the way. But yes, I think Braswell coming back would be a big boost. You get Braswell and Milam back on your middle infield, I think it'd be a big boost. Let's see. Ask Matt, do you believe Coach Brian Kelly, Caleb Jackson is worthy of 20 carries a game? I don't know that anybody's going to get 20 a game. Could you see 12 to 15? Yes, and I would certainly love to see what that looked like. I've said that I'd like to see what it looks like if Caleb Jackson gets 200 carries on the season this year. If he does, I believe he'll be a 1,000-yard rusher. I think he'll average over 5 a carry, and I'd really like to see what that looked like. Connor, tell Tommy Boy we said hi in Sandusky, Ohio. Got it. I thought it too. Trey Guy, greetings from Venice. Okay, I'm jealous. Any inside info on which recruits Corey and Jake will land and when? Not really, man. We're all hopeful for DJ Pickett here coming up a week from Wednesday. And we'll see if they can get Jabari Antoine back in the class. And I'm not sure on safety. Let's see. Jason Horn, size 13. Matthew Johnson, what's going on? Brennan Huff, what's going on? Good morning. Wade Reeves, Matt, who's left in the portal that JJ wants to land here? Any updates on incoming freshmen? I mean, I told you a name yesterday. Daniel Dickerson, I think, is one to watch. I don't know how heavily LSU might be recruiting him, so just for the record there. But remember, Eddie Smith, who was on Jay's first staff at LSU, became the head coach at Utah Valley. Dickerson was first team all conference, hit 367 with 18 homers. He was a semifinalist for the Dick Hauser Award. He could play anywhere really on your infield. So I think that would be an interesting one to keep an eye on. You already have Tanner Reeves signed from the JUCO ranks, and they like Tanner Reeves a lot. So, I mean, in theory, you could see Milam Braswell back in your middle infield and Tanner Reeves at third, and then one of the three guys I just mentioned from Hernandez, Yaman, and Beck play first, one of those guys DH, and then you feel, Priester's your catcher, and then you feel pretty good about your lineup. So I know we talked about it on both Locked on LSU and here. There's a lot. I know there's a lot of angst because we watched LSU not land some of the big name targets in the portal. Gavin Keelan, Zach Root. I mean, the A&M guys who all decided to stay put. But when I look at LSU's roster for next year, still like it a lot, man. Love the pitching staff, what the rotation is going to look like. I think they did great work in the portal, fortifying their arms. And they needed power bats, and I think they went and got a bunch. That was clearly a focus. So, like, would I have loved for them to have landed Gavin Keelan? Yes, of course. I think that's a plug-and-play shortstop that'll be a first-round pick next year. Yes, I would have loved that. Didn't happen, but I still think they're plenty good enough. Uncle Houdat, morning, Sconers. I don't think you meant stoners. From Jacksonville, North Carolina, happy early birthday. Thank you, man. Appreciate it very much. Let's see. Destin Tiger, any recruiting news on big DBs coming in? That would be like a Shea Dixon question on who might be coming for a visit. But again, a week from Wednesday is the one to watch. DJ Pickett, the 5-star number 1 corner in the country, is going to commit. Rocky, Brian Kelly, his network of coaches doing the heavy lifting in terms of recruiting. However, Jay Johnson is doing the lion's share of the work for the baseball team. If that's accurate, should JJ bring in someone to help him in that regard? So to be very clear, all the coaches in baseball recruit. It's not just Jay. But Jay is just a maniacal recruiter. He is a tireless worker in that respect. He wants to do it. I mean, he's the guy that wants to be on the planes, flying around at showcases, being in home with prospects. Like, he wants to be the one doing that. I would also say it's different in baseball than football, because in football, you're also recruiting an 85-man roster and a 25-man class and all these different positions. And so coaches have different territories and recruiting areas in state and out of state. And so you have to have all of your coaches spread across the country, just because there's so many players and prospects that you have to vet and see and recruit and visit. So one guy can't do it all. So they're all recruiting. I mean, the entire LSU staff, baseball staff, is recruiting. It's just that Jay is just relentless. Barry, good morning. Brian Claus, 25 D-line class should be good. 26 class would be special. Have to land Stewart. Completely agree. 26 in Louisiana, we've talked about it a ton, it's a bumper crop. It's a huge year in the state. You got like 3 guys in the top 15, 5 in the top 45. Like, there's like 7 top 100 guys in the state. I mean, you just got to land, put the fence around the state in 2026, and that is the cornerstone of a championship class. Mark Allen, locked on this morning. Morning Scone now. Brisket on the pit, 4:30 this morning. Wow, 4:30 in the morning. So you did catch locked on early. So we set locked on to publish the audio at like 3 a.m. I recorded at night. The podcast published at 3, and we do a premiere on YouTube at 7 Central. So sipping on TX whiskey, finishing with a boat ride tonight. Going to be a good day. That sounds like a hell of a Saturday, Mark. Heck of a little Saturday. Nice little Saturday. Carter, good night from Singapore. All right, Carter, hope all is well, man. Uncle Houdat, good morning, Sconers. Okay, got that one. Mark Allen, y'all need to go eat at Knife at SEC Media Days. Okay, send me Rex, man. I know I'll hit up Javier's for sure. For a little gourmet Mexican cuisine and a cigar. I'll definitely hit Javier's while I'm in Dallas. And open other recommendations, man. We usually go one night. And I'll go with Richard Cross and the guys from Super Talk, Mississippi. They always go to like one night. They go to one like big, nice steak house, and they've been kind enough the last 3 or 4 years to invite me. And that crowd grows a little bit and interchanges, but I always go with those guys at least one night. So looking forward to that very much. Joseph, every holiday or birthday, I always tell the fam and friends, when in doubt, sneaker it out. Sneakerhead, man. That's what I told my mom. I was like, look, sneakers or cigars from my humidor or something like that. But let's see, they don't tie the athlete to the school, so that's what I mean. Oh, you mean well, see, here's the thing, Charles. They could. Like, that's my point. Like, they could, but nobody is going to pursue legal. Like, no school, collective, athletic department would pursue action against a student athlete that broke its NIL contract, because do you really want to be the school that gets the reputation that if a player breaks their NIL deal, you're going to go pursue legal action against them? So they could, but they're not going to. All right, please smash the like button. 256 watching live. I love that. Thank you so much. Please smash the like button. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're there on Facebook, thanks so much as well. Facebook, remember we're live on the Facebook profile now, so do me a solid there and follow the Matt Moscona profile. That's where we're live. Again, it's a Facebook algorithm thing why we switched from the professional page to the profile where we stream live. So do me a solid and jump aboard there. I appreciate it. Trying to see how many are there with us. So 35 of you there, on 36 of you there on Facebook, and about 220 of you there on YouTube. So thanks so much for that. Mark Allen, did anyone check on the Texas NIL professor this morning? So I did look him up, Mark, yesterday, and I emailed him. John is his name, and I was very, very. I wanted to be very cordial, because Morning Scone is a very safe place. I don't want there. There's so much anger and contentment and contentious argument back and forth in sports media. And I don't want to be that. I mean, I know I rant a lot and all, but I usually don't. I try not to take shots at people. Certainly, I'm not the aggressor. Like I will respond if someone takes a shot at me, but I'm really the instigator. And I wasn't the instigator yesterday. And John apologized too. He's like, I came in hot, and I was like, look, I want Morning Scone to be a happy, friendly place. So John's backstory is he did graduate from LSU and he's a professor at Texas. I just fundamentally disagree with his point. John's point yesterday was that Texas doesn't have tons of NIL money. And I told him, I said, John, I think that's intellectually dishonest, because we have on the record information where records that are public. A year ago, there was a record of Texas doing $15.5 million in NIL deals, athletes. There's the story of every Texas lineman being paid $50K. On3 has their collective ratings, and Texas was fourth in those ratings. And then there's the things that I've been told privately by people that I trust implicitly that have very, very close inner working knowledge. Maybe it's just a matter of perspective and comparison. Like maybe Texas has a goal of this and they're only here. So from their perspective, not being here means they're falling short, but they're here when everybody else is here. Yeah, they're flooded with cash relative to everybody else, or most everybody else. So maybe it's just a perspective thing. Anyway, let's see. NIL have contracts attached to them, but NIL are in fact more of an endorsement deal than anything else, basically pro sports. So there's deliverables is what they are. So a deliverable is what you have to execute. I mean, this is true in any contract like that. They're like, what are the deliverables in exchange for the compensation? So that could be true on if someone's renovating your house. Well, the deliverables could be, your sheetrock, carpet, whatever. In this, it just so happens to be, all right, I'm going to sign you to this NIL deal where your deliverables are going to be 2 appearances at NIL events, 3 social media posts, whatever, right? Those are the things that you have to execute, the deliverables in exchange for the compensation. So all of that is contractually based. Yes. Let's see. Dang, that's a bold yardage prediction. If you're talking about Caleb Jackson, look, if Caleb Jackson gets 200 carries, I mean, it's not really that far-fetched. If he gets 200 carries this season, I think he's a 1,000-yard rusher. Now the question is, does he get 200 carries? So Caleb last year averaged 5.3 yards per carry. Now he had 31 carries for 165 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think he can maintain that average if he gets 200 carries. The question is, will he get 200 carries? And I don't know the answer to that. For example, last year, Jaden was, of course, your leading rusher, but among running backs, Logan Diggs had 119 rushes for 653 yards, averaging 5.5 a carry. Josh Williams averaged 5.2 a carry. So my point is, like, I think it's very plausible that Caleb Jackson would average over 5 yards a carry. Like, I don't think that's far-fetched. It's just a matter of, will he get 200 rushing attempts? And the reason I think he could is because, of course, Jaden Daniels last year was your leading rusher. He had 135 rushing attempts for 1,100 yards, averaged 8.4 yards per carry. Well, Garrett Nussmeier had 1 rushing attempt last year. 1. So, I mean, he's not going to be a guy that is going to carry the ball and get you yardage in the running game. So those attempts have to go somewhere. And so I think those 135 attempts get divvied up among your backs. And I think Caleb Jackson and Josh Williams are probably your 2 lead backs. And John Emery's a change of pace guy. And then we'll see what you get from the freshman Caden Durham and if Trey Holly's eligible. But Um, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. B. Lorky, favorite brand of coffee. I am not super picky. I just drink black coffee, and I just am not picky, man. Um, I just kind of throw it back to get the little caffeine in the morning, and that's about it. Survive 623. Morning, Matt. Does LSU have a legit shot at the playoff this year? Schedule is tough. So here, if you look at it from the 10,000-foot view, I think it makes it a little more, a little less daunting. Here's what I mean. Yes, there are a lot of tough games on the schedule, no doubt. But in a 12-team playoff, I think 10-2 gets you in. I think we can agree with it. Can we agree from a starting point that if you go 10-2, if LSU goes 10-2, they're going to get in the playoff? I think we can agree there. So how do you get to 10-2? Well, remember, you start against Southern Cal, where you're a touchdown favorite. If you win that game, you come home against Nichols, which you should win. Then you're going to go on the road to play South Carolina at 11 a.m. Now, that's a tough spot. It's a tricky spot on the road, tough place to play. 11 a.m., all that stuff. But if you take care of your business, then you come home and you play UCLA, which you should roll over them. You'll play South Alabama, which you'll win. And then you get an open date before you play Ole Miss. And that's it. That's the game, I think, that is the swing game on the schedule. If LSU starts 5-0 going into their open date before Ole Miss, remember, Ole Miss has to play at South Carolina before they come to Baton Rouge. So Baton Rouge will be the second of back-to-back road conference games for Ole Miss, while LSU gets a week off before they play Ole Miss. It's a huge advantage to be at home and to have a bye before Ole Miss comes here, and they're being on the road back-to-back weeks. If you look it up historically, and we've done this in the past, it is very, very hard to win back-to-back road conference games in the league. So, excuse me. So if you get past Ole Miss and you're 6-0, then I think worst case over the second half of the schedule is that you go 4-2. I mean, if you lose to Bama and to A&M or Florida or Oklahoma, I think, there's a lot of tough games in there, but you get the open date before Bama. You get that one at home. You get Vanderbilt before you play Oklahoma. You get Oklahoma at home. So there's a lot of tough games, no doubt, but I think the way the schedule stacks up for LSU, I do think it's favorable. I think 10-2 this year, in a back of the playoff spot is very realistic for this team. Darren Straub, is Schmidt's chances of him landing on campus a little bit better with him dropping a few spots? So, Darren, we have talked about that a little this week. The most recent mock draft that I saw, I think maybe earlier this week, was from CBS that had him somewhere as a mid-20s pick, maybe 24, 25. I don't know what William Schmidt's number is. If he wants $5 million and he goes the back of round one where he's offered 3.5, does he take 3.5 or does he come to campus? I don't know. And by the way, I have no idea if his number. So I want to be very clear about that. I do not know if his number's 5 or 3 or what. I have no idea. But I think there is some school of thought which suggests that because we've seen him slide a little bit, slip a little bit, and I'm not like rounds, but like picks in the first round. It's not that it's not that he's gotten worse. It's that I think teams look at signability. So if it's gotten out like what his number is going to be or what he wants, then maybe if teams aren't willing to pay it for a right-handed pitcher out of high school, maybe he does start to slip a little bit. And if he doesn't get his number, maybe he ends up on campus. So it's definitely one to watch. If you make it through next Sunday and you don't hear William Schmidt's name called, I think there's a really, really good chance, man, that if you get through round one, that he'll end up on campus. I mean, there's always someone that could oversign, on day two, but it's one that I at least think there's a 14% chance that he ends up here. Connor Griffin is like 0.01. Cam Caminiti like 0.01. But Schmidt, just because of his love for LSU, him being a self-described LSU baseball superfan, the fact that he is a right-handed pitcher out of high school, maybe 14%. Let's see. Found an old PS2 in one of my cabinets. Still works. So which NCAA game would you get? Basketball, football, or baseball? So, man, I wish I could help you there. I haven't played video games since my Super Nintendo. I mean, what year was that? Like 92, 93? So I haven't had a video game console since my Super Nintendo, man. I'm not the guy to ask that. So get the football game. Michael Cook, good morning. Joseph, if Braswell comes back, does Milam stay at second? One of the new portal guys go to third, or is third open competition with all the above? Yeah, I think if Braswell's back, then Milam's at second, Braswell is at short. And then the spot you're looking at is third. And then you look at, does Tanner Reeves win the third base job? Does one of the freshmen come in? I mean, you have like 4 or 5 signees on that could play in the infield in this class. So does one of those guys come in? And you could say, but like none of us were thinking Stephen Milam was coming here, winning the starting second base job and being in the everyday lineup. And certainly not after fall, because Milam really struggled in the fall. But you never know, man, until the lights come on and they start playing for real, and how some guys respond to playing in front of 10,000 people. So, I mean, if you'd watched Cam Johnson in the fall, you'd have thought he'd probably been a weekend guy for LSU by the time he got to conference play. Instead, he like literally wasn't even on the postseason roster. And Milam was really struggling in fall, and then became your everyday second baseman. So sometimes you just got to be, I know we all want answers, but sometimes you just got to be patient and let it play itself out. All right, always shout out to Brock, y'all. Remember, 3 weeks from today, Brock Rock and Wine. If you've not gotten your tickets yet, it's an awesome event. I hope to see y'all there inside of Tiger Stadium in the South Stadium Club. Wine, food, live music, great auction items, all benefiting the Brock Foundation. Get your tickets at brortho.com. All the info is scrolling here. brortho.com. And of course, I'll tell you every day about Parish Construction and Roofing. Visit parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. Torrential rain yesterday. If you think you might have roof issues, we'd love to give you that free, no obligation roofing inspection. Of course, we offer residential and commercial roofing services and industrial roofing services as well. So we'd love to help you out. Parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. As a matter of fact, I have the Parish link pinned in the YouTube chat. So just click that link and fill out the form. We'd love to help you out. All right. And of course, Restored Motions and restoredmotions.com. Book a session with Crystal Poche, Restored Motions and restoredmotions.com. Samuel, Matt, do you think Jay Johnson has lost any swag in recruiting? No. First of all, LSU's high school class, the recruiting class, I believe, was the number 1 recruiting class in the country. Now, how many of those guys you get to campus? That's a fair question to ask. The portal class, I think LSU has still done tremendous work in the portal class. You've missed on some of the bigger name prospects, but you've missed on them because there were other schools that offered bigger NIL deals. And I went through this a little bit on Locked on LSU earlier in the week. But like Arkansas and Dave Van Horn's a pitching guy. They sunk their NIL resources into pitching, and they landed Zach Root, number 1 left-handed arm in the portal out of East Carolina. LSU wanted him. Arkansas made it a priority, and they paid. A&M invested their resources into retention. So they spent big money to retain Jace Laviolette, Caden Kent, Gavin Grahovac. They wanted to retain their roster, and so they invested their resources in doing that. Tennessee, with Tony Vitello, was more looking at his infield and an offense. So Gavin Keelan, who's the third baseman? I'm blanking.
Yeah, write it down.
I'm blanking. Shoot. Third baseman from Ole Miss. Andrew Fisher. Who hasn't committed yet, but I'm told he's going to him and Doyle, the left-handed pitcher. They're both going to Tennessee. So where have you invested your resources, And I look at LSU and I say, all right, well, let's look at it. You're losing 15 pitchers off this staff. You needed arms. Well, Devin Sheeran was arguably the number 1 right-handed arm in the portal. And throws 100 from the right side, 6'7". Okay. Zach Cohen was the Friday night guy at Wofford, innings eater. Maybe he's a weekend guy for you. Maybe he's a middle innings eater for you. Okay. Chandler Dorsey, 2 years as the closer. He's 97 from the right side. 2 years as the closer at South Florida. You bring him in. Okay. Um, Jacob Myers from Nichols, incredible strikeout stuff. Has to work on the walks, admittedly a problem. But if he figures out the command, okay. You see my point? Like, they've done some pretty incredible work there. You needed power bats. Luis Hernandez, 23 homers. Eddie Yaman, 13 homers. Dalton Beck out of Incarnate Word, 18 homers, power bat. You see what I mean? Like, they went and addressed the needs they had with really good players in the portal. So, yeah, man, I think they're like, I want to remind you as well, like, yes, it's a bummer to see Zach Root go to Arkansas and Gavin Keelan go to Tennessee, and I'm with you on that. Like, I'm not disagreeing. You're a better team with those guys, period. But take evaluation of what LSU's roster looks like for next year, and you can understand why earlier this week when D1 Baseball, all 8 writers or 9 writers of D1 Baseball put out their way too early 8 for Omaha. The 8 teams they're projecting to go to Omaha next year. Every single one of them had LSU in Omaha next year. Every one of them. Like, are all the smartest college baseball writers in the country just that wrong? All of them? I mean, every one of them. Brian Wynn, morning, Matt. Paul Skeens and the Pirates crushed my Mets yesterday, headed for Rookie of the Year. Yeah, Paul Skeens, you know what would be more interesting? Like, Paul Skeens is going to win Rookie of the Year. The more interesting bet right now, if you're looking to place a wager on it, would be, what kind of odds could you find for Paul Skeens for the Cy Young Award? It may be a challenge just because he'll lack the necessary innings pitched. Because to qualify for a lot of those awards, typically, like, you have to be at 162 innings pitched. So essentially, what would amount to for a starting pitcher 1 inning per game played. So you'd have to cross the 162 threshold, and Paul Skeens isn't pacing for that. But if you keep doing what you're doing, how do you ignore him? So that would be a more interesting bet if you could find it. But I mean, Rookie of the Year seems like a cinch right now for Skeens. Tiger Diver, Bradley and Graffy. Hey, Matt, what kind? Sorry. Austin, morning, Matt, from Vegas home gym. I feel like I've missed a month of sports news. I have an hour off dad duty now to work out. I'm locked in. Love seeing you there, dude. Good to have you, Austin. Look forward to seeing you in a few months there in Vegas. Tracy, can't wait to go back and listen. I go back and listen to, can't remember, 9:48. That was 15 minutes. I don't know what I was talking about 15 minutes ago. Sorry, Tracy. All right, I'm going to speed up a little bit here. Robert, let's see, Matt, understand schools not wanting the reputation of suing students if an NIL contract is broken from transferring. At what point do these kids learn what a contract means? When they're held accountable. Couldn't we say the same on the other side? I mean, scholarships are a contract, and coaches and universities and athletic departments purge kids out of their programs every year. It's a two-way street. What are the coaches? Hey, can we say, hey, Robert, at what point do kids learn what a contract means? How about Jim Schlossnagle, the adult who just broke his contract to leave Texas A&M to go to his rival Texas the day after playing for a national championship and chastising a reporter who asked him if he was interested in the Texas job? Again, stop holding the kids to a different standard than you hold the adults. That's the point I'm going to make and continue to make. Bradley, what do you think about Gio Paez? I haven't heard much about him. I know LSU got him. So, Bradley, I am really excited about Gio Paez. He's the guy that I would take a flyer on to be like the biggest impact guy on the defense, the newcomer. I love everything about Gio Paez. Interviewed him whenever he committed. Had him back on the show a second time on AFR. And the thing that really stood out, so he's been at Wisconsin playing in a 3-4 where he was playing end in a 3-4. And he told me point blank, like, he was not looking at all at a defense that was running a 3-4 because he wants to play, an interior defensive tackle spot in a 4-3 where he can go make plays. Because in a 3-4, your job is to eat up blockers to free up the the linebackers in the second level to make the plays. So that's number one. I love the fact that he's coming here with the intention of making plays. As a sixth-year guy, you're talking about a mature dude at 23 years old or 24 years old. And I also love when he told me, he's like, I came on the recruiting visit, like I didn't take any pictures. I wasn't doing the photo shoot. Like I wanted to know, how are you going to use me? How can I thrive here? So I think he's locked in. When you have someone that's veteran like that, that's mature, locked in, focused, physically mature at 23, 24 years old, I'm excited about Gio Paez. Like I hope he has a great year for LSU. It feels a lot like, when Braden Fisk, it's not a what, but like Braden Fisk knew he had his 1 year at Florida State going from Western Michigan and blew up, had a great All-America caliber year as a disruptive force. I don't know if Paez is going to be that, but I'm hopeful that he becomes a guy that's a part of that rotation and a really good part of that rotation as well. Terry Walker, what's going on? Let's see, Robert. Every other person in the world has to become an adult at 18 on our contracts. So again, Robert, what about the coaches? What are the coaches that break their contracts? Brennan Samaha, did the all SEC D lineman from Missouri not want to leave and come to LSU? I mean, are you talking about Darius Robinson? Because he went to the NFL draft. Yeah, he's with the Arizona Cardinals now. If that's what you're talking about. Donnie, good morning. Hood Jesus Debo, talk about Bama burning when they got the number 2 class when LSU been burnt. Cool, great avatar. And again, you continue losing the point where Bama's got 21, 22 commits in their class. Sure, that's a quantity thing there. Hood Jesus Debo is funny though, by the way. I remember this will sting for Hood Jesus there. There was a few years ago, maybe the 2021 or 22 class, where Tennessee had this like torrid start. Like in the summer, they ended up with getting like 22 commits in the summer. And they had the number 1 recruiting class in the country because they had like 22 commits in July. And they finished somewhere in the middle of the pack. And that's what's going to happen to Bama as well. Not middle of the pack, but when you have 21 commits and you have your commits early, great, good for you. You've got a lot of hay in the barn. But you also have a whole bunch of 3-stars in your class, which you signed 9 3-stars last year, which Nick Saban had never in a year signed more than 6. And that's the point. Like the other thing too is what I keep talking about Bama, and that's what's sad about a guy like that. Like my whole point with Bama is they have unquestionably lowered their standard. Like in the last 17 years, I don't ever remember Alabama fans taking victory laps over having a number 2 ranked recruiting class in July. But here, because they didn't care. They cared about one thing, winning championships. And now they're all on the defensive because they know in their heart of hearts that the greatest coach ever has left their program and it's never going to be the same. Because Nick instituted a culture there that nobody, and a standard that nobody can live up to. And I think deep in their heart of hearts, they know, like, they can say, oh, look, we were, an overtime game against Michigan in the Rose Bowl away from playing for championship. That's true. And you were also a gag job by Auburn away from being in the Citrus Bowl. You also lost by double digits on your home field to Texas. You also struggled on the road against South Florida. Oh, by the way, Kalen DeBoer, your new coach, needed a plum miracle to beat Washington State in the Apple Cup. And needed the favor of God to get past Oregon in the first game of the regular season. I mean, Washington was that close to being 10-2 in a bad Pac-12. But no, I'm sure you're right. I'm sure nothing's going to change at Bama. Nothing's going to change. It's got to keep on rolling, right? It's going to be a funny day this year. I'm telling you, Bama's not going to be bad. If they go 9-3 this year, those people are going to melt. In 17 years, Nick Saban had 16. After the first year, after 2007, Nick had 1 year where they lost 3 games. I'm not talking about 3 games. So, I mean, or 3 in the regular season. I mean, 3 total. 1 year where he lost 3 games, 2010. 1 year. They went 9-3, won the bowl game against Michigan State, went 10-3. The only year after his first season in Tuscaloosa that Nick ever lost. They are not used to losing 3 games. They don't know what that feels like. They're about to. I'm going to laugh at him every step of the way. So keep celebrating your July recruiting champions. Hang a banner. I mean, you'll hang banners for a lot of stuff that you didn't win. Brendan Huff, Matt, ever take Drew to Cabela's? Fish tanking animals everywhere. My kids love it. It's basically a free museum. Not a bad idea. We could do that. We've never taken him, no. Let's see. I have LSU as the favorite in every game except Alabama. Ole Miss being toss-up, which I'm leaning towards LSU. LSU actually in the early spread is a favorite over Alabama at home. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. LSU 6.5 against USC. Oh, wait, hang on. Give me 1 second. No, 1 second. Let's see. Hey, bud. Let's see. Scroll to it. I'll tell you. Hang on. Let's gotta scroll down. I'll try to search for it. Let's see. LSU 5 at home against Oklahoma. LSU 5.5 at Florida. LSU 1 point home favorite over Alabama. Ole Miss, I know that's on here too. I think it was LSU 3 against Ole Miss. LSU is the one game they're an underdog is at A&M. LSU a 2-point road dog to A&M. And I know y'all are going to roll your eyes. The LSU 9-point road favorite against Arkansas. I know y'all are going to roll your eyes at that, but I'm telling you, it's the back-to-back road conference thing. That's the one point in the schedule where LSU goes at Arkansas, at A&M, and it is very hard. LSU 2.5 at home against Ole Miss. It is very hard to win, to go on the road back-to-back weeks in the SEC, which is why I like LSU at home against Ole Miss, because that's back-to-back road conference games for Ole Miss, and LSU gets an open date before Ole Miss comes here. David Bass, good morning. Kelly Gross, good morning. Dawson, do you think the Oklahoma game at Tiger Stadium will a great day because it's going to be Oklahoma's first trip to Tiger Stadium? I do. I'm very much looking forward to that. I hope it is, and I hope both teams are playing for something meaningful. Take Keith, which of the recruits last week would you say is the biggest get? I mean, the biggest, the highest rated prospect is Damian Shanklin, the edge out of Indiana. I think you got a fortified defensive tackle. So, flipping Brandon Brown from Texas, I think is a really big deal too. Kid from Florida who's committed to Texas and you flipped him. I think that's a big deal. Darren, who's the next football recruit we should hear about committing? I know Pickett is next week. Pickett is the 17th. So the week after next. So a week from Wednesday is when DJ Pickett is committing. Bran, what's going on? Rick, listening from Miramar Beach. Okay, Bo Davis had a huge weekend. He did. John, whiskey and wine in Vegas. Yes, that is the plan. There will be whiskey and wine in Vegas, and the plan is to be back at the MGM Sportsbook inside Mandalay Bay. So that's where we'll be doing our shows that week, and we hope to see a lot of y'all there. Ryan Stadler, morning. Don't mean to change the subject. I hope they run Jackson like Bama ran Lacey. This line we have bully people. I agree. I mean, I would love to see Caleb Jackson get 200 carries this year to see what it looks like. Donald, can I get another shout out to Dana Martin Hartwich, voted RRAC female tier character athlete of the year. Awesome. Shout out to Dana Martin Hartwich. Shout out on your great award. What is the is it E tier female E tier athlete of the year? Anyway, shout out to Dana. Congratulations. That's awesome. Awards are great. Congrats to you. Scott Oldham. I think the power that Cale Fountain can add to the lineup for Jay if he makes it to campus could be huge. It is the unknown, Scott, is like you get the freshman on. I mean, look, I mentioned the outfielders. I didn't even mention Derek Curriel, who's a guy that was a projected first-round pick who said he's not going to sign and he's going to come to campus. Does Derek Curriel win one of the outfield jobs? Maybe. Jerome Lear said, morning, Matt. Did Cam Johnson transfer from LSU? We need pitching. Cam Johnson did. He's going to Oklahoma. And I think LSU has done a really good job in the portal fortifying the pitching staff. Now let's see what happens in the draft. You get Griffin Herring back. If by some miracle you get William Schmidt to campus, I think LSU's pitching is going to be just fine. Take Keith, Matt, how fun would it be if they went 7-5, 8-4? Would DeBoer be fired on the spot? I don't think that Alabama is going to go 7-5 or 8-4. Rick, can we get 8-4 for Bama? I still think they're a very talented roster, and I still think they're going to be good. That's one of the big misconceptions, but I say it every video I've done with the Bama is burning. I say it very plainly. I say they're not going to be bad. They're just not going to be invincible anymore. And that's going to be very hard for them to live in existence where you don't expect to win every game you play. And I think they're going to turn on Kalen DeBoer. I think DeBoer is a good coach. One of the things I'll tell you, and I do know several people, let's say, affiliated with Alabama. Let's just say it that way. One of the sort of familiar refrains that I've heard is how much easier it is with Kalen DeBoer. The coaches aren't working as long hours. The grind on the players isn't as severe. All of that sort of stuff. And my point is that's what made Nick Saban great. His maniacal attention to detail over the last 2 decades is the culture, his process that they built where every little detail matters. And nobody can maintain that pace and that structure. So if Bama lets their foot off the gas even slightly, what does it look like? Well, it looks like 9-3. And I think that's what they're going to go this year. People say, well, what 3 games they're going to lose? Let's look at their schedule. I mean, by the way, Las Vegas has their projected win total over under at 9.5. So they're basically saying 9-3, 10-2. Let's look at the schedule. Open up with Western Kentucky, which they'll win. They'll beat Western Kentucky. Then they're home against South Florida. And then they go to Wisconsin. Now, they should beat Wisconsin. That's an 11 a.m. game on Fox in Madison. We'll see, right? They should win that game. Should win that game. Big bad Bama from the SEC should win that game. I also saw Alabama last year go on the road to South Florida down in Tampa and win like 17-3, and they couldn't move the ball at all. Then they got Georgia, which Georgia should win that game in Tuscaloosa, and that'll be hilarious. Then they go to Vanderbilt, which they should win. Home against South Carolina. Then they're at Tennessee. And, brother, I got news for you. Last time Bama went to Tennessee, they lost. And I think Tennessee has a great chance to win that game. Then they play Missouri, which we'll see if Missouri's good again. I have my doubts about Missouri being able to maintain, where they've been. And then they come to Baton Rouge, which is certainly a game that LSU could, maybe even should win. Mercer, then at Oklahoma, and then they get Auburn to wrap up. I mean, Georgia, at Tennessee, at LSU, at Oklahoma, Auburn. That's not even counting at Wisconsin or home against Missouri. You can tell me they couldn't stub their toe 2 or 3 times? Well, man, I watched Jalen Miller try to throw the football last year. They still don't have any receivers. You can tell me about the 5-star freshman they're excited about. They should be. You should be excited about a 5-star freshman coming in. That's great. You'd be more excited when you have Devontae Smith and Henry Ruggs and Jalen Waddle, and like that looks way better. But when your best receiver, Isaiah Bond, is now Texas's best receiver, okay. 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 Let's see, Matt. Do you think college football players will ever be able to enter the draft or return to school? No. Um, because of the NFL sets those rules, by the way, and the NFL will never allow that. Sweet, Matt. Other than the great coaching hours, can you talk about how the LSU's D might be better this year? Yeah. Well, I think I read this quote a couple, maybe it was last week or maybe the week before, from an anonymous SEC coach on Blake Baker. It was from Lindy's magazine. Hang on. Let me see. I can find it real quick for you. Here you go. This was an anonymous SEC coach talking to Lindy's magazine about Blake Baker. Quote, they, meaning LSU, they changed defensive coordinators from Matt House to Blake Baker, and I'm not sure House's style worked. It was all over the place. A lot of exchange responsibilities, hence a lot of busts. It's going to be interesting because it's a major difference. Sometimes you need to cut it back. You need to simplify. But Baker's a phenomenal defensive coordinator, and he should get that remedied really quickly. The thing that was most interesting about that is him talking about the exchange responsibilities and the busts. Because last year, LSU, talent-wise, defensively, was not elite. There was no player in that secondary that was a draftable player. But what if you could cut out all the coverage busts? How much better would you have been just eliminating the busts or cutting the busts in half? Blake Baker comes in, simplifies, puts people in a more natural position. Can you dramatically reduce the coverage bust? Even if your talent isn't elite, just reducing the coverage bust makes you better. You know, having Bo Davis coming in coaching the defensive line, one of the things, that I know was talked about often was when Pete Jenkins came in, one of the first things he did was fixing stances of the defensive linemen and how far off the ball they were. So when you had guys that were a yard and a half off the ball, your defensive tackles were a yard and a half off the ball. You're lengthening the distance between you and the ball, the quarterback, the runner. It's another step and a half to get to the quarterback. So like all of that, compound. So just being coached better, I think makes this defense better. And then what about the talent, the personnel? You add a Jair Brown at corner, or you get Zy Alexander back coming off of injury. Do Stamps and Toviano get better in year 2? Is Sage Ryan make you better at his more natural position at safety? Major Burns playing the star position. Savion Jones, Braden Swinson, Paris Chan, Deshaun Womack. You had a good rotation at end now as well. You fortify with numbers on the interior of the defensive line. How good are those guys? We'll see. But again, I'm not telling you that I think LSU's defense is going to be great, because I don't think they're going to be great. But do I think they can be better than 108th in the country? Yes, I do. Can they be 58th in the country? Well, if you are, then you're going to win a lot of games. If you were 58th in the country defensively last year, you would have been in the playoff and probably winning a national title. Darren, good morning. How is it going to be epic when the Gumps go 9-3 and the Fire DeBoer rants get louder? Yes. I'm just going to sit back and laugh the whole way. Austin, LSU had their worst game of the season at A&M in 2022. I'm sure that's a factor. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, LSU hasn't won in College Station since 2016. 2018 was the overtime game. 2020, they lost there during the COVID year. And then, of course, 2 years ago, um, they lost the week before the SC championship game. LSU hasn't won in College Station since 2016. That's bizarre, considering LSU dominated that series. Coming into the league, winning winning the first six. When A&M came into the league, and now they've just flip flopped ever since. Austin, Matt loves it when Bama fans try to troll him on a show. I kind of do. It's just so pathetic. Like, they don't understand that I'm trolling them, and they're spending time out of their day worrying about what I'm saying. It is hilarious to me how I've become like public enemy number one of Alabama fans. Smash the like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel. Scott, is there a slot number Schmidt has put out there? No, nobody ever will reveal the slot number, man. It's because it just hurts them in negotiation. You would never put your cards on the table. You have your number that you and your representation agree to, but you would never put it out there, because ultimately, what if someone would be willing to pay you more than what you're willing to, than what your bottom line number is? So no one ever puts that out there. Merrick, are you going to the game in Vegas? If so, will there be a delayed start of Whiskey and Wine? I am going to be at the game. We will probably, T-Bob and I will probably leave the game early. We can't do a delayed start because Charles starts Eagle 98.1 post game 90 minutes after the game. So we fill that 90 minutes from clock hit 0 to start of Eagle game day post game. So that's why we have the 90 minutes. Let's see. Slow boy, I think they lose to Georgia, Tennessee, and LSU. Certainly possible. Jaden, Red Elephant Rain is over. Donald, send it to you on AFR text. Diehard LSU fan, went to college in Montgomery. Can't wait for this 3-loss season for Alabama. I'm going to be so obnoxious in all my college group chats. That's funny. Let's see. Oh, cool. Got it. Thank you, Donald. Very cool. So, is it Dana or Dana? Martin Hartwick from LSU. Very cool. Very, very cool. Good for her. It's fantastic news. Let's see. Austin, we would have definitely beaten Ole Miss without Bust. Yeah. I mean, just flip that one game, you're 10-2. Still look back at Florida State, and I know the way that appears, and LSU is not good defensively, but people forget, man, you were in a 1-score game at the start of the fourth quarter, and you had the ball. And remember, you had back-to-back drops. The last play of the third quarter, the first play of the fourth quarter, were drops. One was around midfield, and the other was, I think it was it Kyron down around like the 15-yard line. I mean, you were in that game. As badly as you played defensively, you were in that game through 3 quarters. Let's see. I see a lot of experts saying LSU is going to be bad because of the D-line. When you actually do the research, they have numbers and some talent. But they got a lot to prove. Like it's fair to be skeptical about LSU's defensive line. It's fair. Like, they were not good last year, and you didn't add like marquee starters out of the portal. You had a JVR Suggs from Division II, and you had a Gio Paez from Wisconsin, who's kind of switching positions. So now you got Sean Washington coming in from JUCO. Hopefully he could be a really good player. Jacobian's been part of a rotation for pretty much his whole career. Can he be a 75% of your defensive snaps guy and be really effective? Dominic McKinley coming in as a freshman, can he be part of your rotation? These are fair questions. I mean, Kimo Makanaioli switching from offense to defense, like how does he do with that transition? Like all these, it's fair. They're fair questions, man. Like it's very fair to question LSU, every level of LSU's defense. They were so bad a year ago. Like I think we expect they'll be better, but how much better? Rick S., I've never watched a Bama sports show. They're not worth it. That's the point, Rick. They're so the Bama fans are so insecure when somebody laughs at them. They have what? You can't laugh at us. So they all come flood my Twitter and here and everything, and they just don't realize like they're a dog on a leash, and I just keep yanking the chain. Jordan, will Sloan be at LSU after having a successful season? Don't know. I mean, I know Joe wants to be a head coach. That's not breaking news or anything. I mean, every coach I think has that aspiration. After 1 year as OC, I doubt it. But I think, his star will continue to rise. Couple more here. Brian Wynn, Matt, if you keep trolling Bama fans, you better protect any oak trees you might have in your yard. Good point. We did a big oak tree in the front yard. Take Keith. Is Chris Hilton and CJ Daniels going to be the number 2, or CJ Daniels be the number 2? I think now they're going to play different positions. And I think Hilton, how about this? I think Daniels has more receptions. I think Hilton has more touchdowns. How about that? Okay. All right, y'all. I think we're just about done. As always, shout out to Brock. Remember, Brock, Rock, and Wine presented by Audi of Baton Rouge coming up 3 weeks from today. Get your tickets, brortho.com, brortho.com. And, of course, Parrish Construction and Roofing. Beautiful, sunshiny day. If you had roof damage because of the weather yesterday, have a leak, think you might, let us come check you out. Free, no obligation roofing inspection, parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. All right, y'all have an awesome, phenomenal, fantastic day. And this one more, though. This guy said, I'm hyped about Gio. Am I the only one sick of these guys in their 6th or 7th year playing college? Yeah, why are you sick of that? If they have eligibility, what's the point? I mean, everybody got an extra year because of COVID. What's the problem? That's expiring now. But, I mean, should you not have been able to take the COVID year as an extra year? The fake COVID season? What's the problem with that? It's going to expire, like the last crop of guys from the COVID year are coming through this year, and then it'll be over. But, well, whatever. Okay, y'all have a great day. See ya.